Oh, thank you so much. You know, it's just lovely to see you all. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. Can I just start by asking you to just briefly introduce yourselves and what you do in the band? We're going to show this in the Fontaines group, and I know there's like loads of Turnstiles fans. So yeah, that'd be really cool. You could just give your name and a wee intro.
My name's Callum. I shout. I don't really sing, I just kind of shout. That's what I do, really.
I'm Gillian, like the rhythm guitar.
I'm Luke, and I play percussion / drums.
I'm Jake, and I play bass.
I'm Colum, and I play guitar.
Cool, thank you. And so first off, I have to say, oh, that Mike the Pies gig, that was just fantastic. It must have been a bit strange for you playing in front of people, and then all the added restrictions and, you know, all the drama that's going around it at the moment. But how did that feel, just playing for once in front of a crowd after such a long time? I say a crowd, was it about 30 people who weren't allowed to dance? But anyway.
Yeah, we played to smaller crowds before, yeah, so it was, and it was in a small room, so it was still a good atmosphere and good energy. You kind of, like, you could tell that if people were allowed to stand up and dance, it would have been a really great gig. It was kind of like you're just on the verge, you know, if people could have just kind of leapt out of their seats, it would have been good. But it was still obviously better than anything we've done in the last year, so progress.
Yeah, I mean, is it? But I mean, I'm guessing for you, it's got to be the best part of 2 years, isn't it? Since you've actually played a proper gig. Beginning of 2020. Yeah.
The last proper gig, February 2020.
Yeah. And it must be nerve-wracking as well, because after so long and with everything that's happened, you know, I've been noticing that in a lot of the press, you know, all the chat is really about us as gig goers, and that it's such a shame for us because we haven't had gigs, and you know that we're missing out or not. But actually, there's very little about the bands themselves and for you guys, and to have had this big long shutdown and then to be going back and starting to play again. It's all a very weird time, isn't it? Because you're excited, but I guess there must be a bit of apprehension as well. Just that's human.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of, for the most part, positive. Like we try to like make the most of, like, it's a bad situation and we're not happy about it, but like we don't really kind of just whine about it. We just kind of like make the most of it and, you know, ride as much as we can. But definitely it's weird playing live. Like I was quite nervous, and that would have been that kind of came out of me with experience. But I felt a bit nervous, even though it was only 30 people before the gig in Mike Pies. Yeah.
I was definitely more nervous than I have been for even, you know, bigger crowds or whatever. It was a weird feeling.
And I think it's good for you to know that and I know that room in particular, everyone was just buzzing. There was people that were just so excited that they were going to be going, and they were seeing you, and it was Mike the Pies, and you know, so you are, you know, you're playing to an audience who is just, you know, with you, you know, which is great. But you still feel that pressure to perform. Of course you do, because you're a band and you want to, you know, you want to do well, and yeah.
Yeah, we got like an encore at the end of this gig, so and like it was, but it's something that we haven't done in a long time, which is because we had played all of our songs. People were asking for an encore. We didn't have any songs left, so we did IDC, the song that we played earlier in the set. We did it again. And that was kind of something we were doing when the band first started, and we only had like maybe 8 or 9 songs. So if there was ever calls for an encore, we'd have to just play something again. And yeah, we ended up doing that in Mike the Pies, so it kind of felt like it definitely had a lot of the like characteristics of a very like early gig. Like it was kind of like being back at the start a little bit.
I also think for our gigs, there's usually such like energy in the crowd, like dancing around and just kind of a bit of craziness that, for me anyway, it feels a bit strange. Like I didn't necessarily feel that the crowd was with me because it's so different. Whereas like other bands are used to playing to people who are quite calm or sitting down. But for me anyway, it just felt a bit weird. Like it felt like we were doing something wrong because the crowd isn't dancing, but like obviously they couldn't.
Yeah. So I wonder if I can just go back to the beginning. How did Turnstiles come to be? How did you all get together initially?
We kind of just, I think the band was kind of put together as, like it was put together long before we met up, and we kind of had been talking about it for a few months. I know, like personally, I was living in Spain at the time for a few months, but I've been texting Cal about, oh, when I come back, like we should start a band, and Cal had met Luke and Killian in that time, so he kind of said he knew people. And then me and Cullum had been in bands before, well, one band before, and I think it was only like a few days before our first practice, then I was over at Cullum's, and I kind of just, me and Cal kind of discussed it, like, oh, we should get Cullum on board too, and then, so I just mentioned it to him, oh, we're having a practice, I'm in a couple of days if you want to come down. And it was good because I don't think Killian showed up then to the first one, so there was like, it was good to have a guitar player there.
Standing for Killian.
And then
originally
we did a couple of practices. Killian was in France. Killian was working in a bar at the time, so I remember we did a couple of practices with Cullum, and Killian came down, and like it was kind of after then all five of us going together. We kind of found our sound a little bit.
Very lucky as well that we had our first gig. I think we played Gavin's house before.
Yeah.
Before we played an actual official gig in a venue, like we had the chance to play in our friend's house, like, so I think that was great for us because that was a massive confidence booster to be playing in front of friends, and like even just to get to know other bands, and like, I think it's fair to say probably most of our friends there probably weren't expecting much of us, like, and we'd only been together whatever 4 weeks, but I think that kind of, after that, I think we all kind of realized, oh, there might be something in this, like, so.
Yeah, definitely, like the reception we got was definitely like a surprise to me. Like it was like, okay, this is overwhelmingly positive. So, there's a lot of motivation to keep going. And yeah, that was a month before our first gig, I think.
I think, yeah, there was a bit of a break then. We couldn't get any venues again because we hadn't really established ourselves. So like we played the one gig in our friend's house, and then we couldn't. We were kind of emailing venues and stuff, and they wouldn't take us. And eventually, obviously, that changed. But you kind of need like strokes of luck. I think. Like I think we got a message off a band called Felonies, and they were just like last minute looking for a support act in Galway, and then so they came. I remember it was in the Roisin Dove, which is kind of the main indie pub in town, and like they came down and they're like, oh, so you guys like played here loads, like, what's it like? And we're like, yeah, we've never played a gig before, so I don't think they really knew how like amateur we were at that point. But then it's just like a snowball, and then it just keeps going, keep getting gigs.
I think the most important part was Jake being proactive and setting up an event for Galway, a free event with loads of bands, which was like a platform for us to get out there, and it's called Free House, and like that was probably the pushing the snowball down the cliff. Like that was like how we actually got popular, because we doing free gigs and like not having the pressure of paying to see a band that you've never heard of. It just kind of opened a lot of people up to our music, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of bands, they'd be kind of in and around our level, and they'd play a gig in town, it'd be like 13.50 in, and it's just like, who's going to pay that, to see someone that they've never heard of? So unless you're, open to taking risks like that, but I think definitely the free gigs helped. And they were kind of inspired by the atmosphere that was at our friend Gavin's house. So the reason the gigs were called Free House was because he had a free house. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of the energy you want to recreate, like as if the energy at the gigs, you want to be like someone just found out they have a free house for the weekend and you just crammed a load of people in to deliver it. Like that was kind of.
Okay. Now I'm beginning to picture what that gig was actually like.
Yeah.
And now I can understand why playing to people seated at Mike the Pies wasn't what you were aiming for, but and where did the name come from, Turnstiles?
It's very random.
We're just throwing words around, I think, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, we toyed with the idea of a name change a few times, but we're unsure. But yeah, Turnstiles I think is just a cool word. It's in the song "Pull of the Moon" by the Waterboys.
Yeah.
There's a line. You were there at the Turnstiles, and I thought I remember listening to it, I think that was a cool word. At the time, it was just like whenever anyone thought of something, we were just sending in a text.
Yeah.
There was some awful suggestions, and then there's some okay suggestions. Turnstiles was kind of one of the okay ones.
That won the day. Yeah, it was quite interesting that there's a band called Turnstile playing at Primavera next year. It's like, oh no. But maybe one day that would be cool. Patience.
That's Callum Summerall.
Yeah, we've become increasingly aware of them and how popular they are. We didn't know about them at first, and now it's kind of like
Funny.
What?
So the first single that came out, so the double A side, Wasting Away. Now so as you're probably aware, I was at the in-store gigs for Fontaines DC, and then they had just a set playlist that they were putting on before the gigs, and Wasting Away was on that. So I heard Wasting Away like 4 times at each gig that I went to, and I thought that was really cool, and particularly in Kingston when there was a guy wearing a Turnstiles t-shirt as well, which is just like absolutely fantastic. So that's a real, and I had a quick look on Spotify, by the way. It's now had 75,000 streams, Wasting Away, which is pretty good. So that came out in August 2019. So putting a double A side together, that must have felt pretty special. Getting something out there, down and recorded.
Yeah, that was really fun. The first recording session. We were playing football as well, and me and Callum went up to head of the same ball, and I came home from the recording session with a black eye.
It was very rapid though. Like we had, I don't know, we wrote those in like the first few proper practices. Like.
Yeah, Wasting Away was written in the very first practice, right at the start. We did it, and then we kind of didn't have any other songs, so practice for the first couple of weeks just kind of consisted of meeting up and Wasting Away like 10 times. And then when it came to record a song, we're like, bit of a no-brainer. So, and then we recorded Moving Forward like maybe a month or 2 later.
I think it was actually a good bit longer.
Maybe,
yeah. I think we recorded Wasting Away, and then we didn't release it for a long time.
So, we had it on YouTube, and it kind of was getting sent around like people we know in Galway and stuff, and like people that would come to the gigs. But then when we went to record Moving Forward a few months later, then we decided, okay, we should make a proper release out of this, put them both on Spotify together. And that was when they kind of song picked up a little bit, got some outside attention.
And how do you, like the songwriting process, how do you start with an idea? Do you start with the lyrics? Does that come first and then the music? And how do you all work together on it? Is it different for different songs, or do you have one? How does that work? How are the songs created?
Group, it's definitely the music comes first. Like whereas like Jake writes a lot of the majority of the lyrics. And he would often write lyrics that we would just have, but he wouldn't bring lyrics and say, let's make a song out of this. It'd be more so we have music. And sometimes lyrics can be written for that music, or sometimes we have music and we can look at a catalog of lyrics that are already there. But just usually for the band, I would think music comes first, or like a riff or a drum beat or a bass line or something.
Yeah.
Okay, because your songs are, I mean, the lyrics are they're not overtly political, but they're very personal, aren't they? They talk about, it's really your generation and your, you know, your view on the world. And so that's a surprise, because I did think that possibly the words came first. So the fact it is the music, and then that's really really interesting.
Sometimes the lyrics would, you know, you have a set of lyrics, and then once you try putting them to music, you kind of have to move a few things around, just in terms of, you know, changing syllables, or, oh, this part actually works better as a chorus than as a first line. So it's the process, like, does involve both of them. They're not completely separate, but yeah, I think yeah, that, like, the process isn't exactly the same for every song as well. Like, sometimes, you know, Colin or Killian would write a bass line, or one of us would try to tell Luke what to play on drums, and like we kind of try to inform each other's playing. But then there are songs where it's very much, you know, building blocks. Everyone has their own piece, and we just put them together. So.
There's no real formula, really.
Like, sometimes I feel like the music is all like dictates like the mood of the song, and I think of lyrics then as like, okay, they have to relate to how this music makes me feel, and kind of like the music kind of dictate the feeling. So for me, it's definitely, even when I listen to music, like I mightn't even listen to the lyrical content at all. I would just listen to the vocal melody, and I wouldn't even really think about what's being said. So that's how I would approach writing a song.
So, I mean, oh God, I mean, what a tough time, because if that first single came out in August 2019, and to think that within the space of about 6 months, this whole pandemic situation started. But you, I think you've been you seem to have been pretty motivated. You've continued to produce music and release music. That must have been quite difficult. Was there a time when you could, I mean, I'm guessing there was a period when you couldn't all get together. And then did you get back together, and then it was like, just, did you feel really creative, or was it really difficult, or was it just, you know, 'cause I think it's been different for different bands, you know, the impact of this whole pandemic?
Well, personally, I've been finding it hard to be creative, just independently anyway. I definitely feed off the other lads and what they're doing, and try and bounce off them. And I think they're some of the nicest moments. Like, if something just happens kind of organically, that, you know, you're just jamming around, messing about, and then things start to flow. And we talk about it a lot, like trying to be in a state of flow and stuff. So I suppose in that sense, it was kind of annoying that, like, you know, we're just kind of getting together, and, you know, the momentum, and we're kind of getting the kind of unsaid understandings between us all are kind of getting there, and then it's kind of cut off. But I think it's coming back. I think, you know, our approach now is trying to spend for long periods of time together. So we'll say, for, you know, try and do a day or two if we can afford it. We can all get time off work or education or whatever. And I think that's that kind of giving us that space, kind of allows us to kind of get back into that rhythm with each other. But yeah, it's definitely been difficult on a lot of people, I think, in terms of trying to keep motivated. And I suppose it's related to the fact that people haven't been living normal life as such. You know, like, all of the normal timeline of things is kind of disrupted. So there's always going to be that, like, you know.
It was also helpful that like some of the music we put out was recorded pre-lockdown anyway, so we kind of had that in the pocket to dish out.
Oh, that was good, because you could just keep that, you know, the interest that you generated from the, you know, the single and the initial songs. Then, yeah, and I mean, because you put the EP out in January, which was, I mean, was there much decision making around that, or did you just think, right, actually we can do this, it's ready to go, let's get it out? Did you think about delaying it, or?
It was delayed kind of like for reasons outside of our control, because we recorded it, we wrote it in July maybe, and then recorded in October, and then there was a level 5 lockdown, so we couldn't get together, and we were trying to book studio days, but they were getting cancelled, and I don't think we mixed it, and we mixed it remotely over Skype until early December, and then there was kind of a few alterations to be made for the rest of that month, so January was then when it came out. So it was like we were doing everything as soon as we could. Like we were really desperate to get it out because, you know, we hadn't been able to gig, so we hadn't been able to do anything for months. So we were already eager to get it out, but it was kind of just waiting for, you know, a day to pop up where the studio was free, or yeah, just things to be ready. So it was kind of a dragged out experience. At the time, it felt like that. Looking back, it wasn't too dramatic or anything. At the time, it was like we were sitting on it. And, you know, we had it in our minds kind of ready to go, but there was things kept getting in the way. So it was a bit frustrating at the time.
I mean, you just said we mixed it over Skype. I mean, that, you know, that in itself is like the technology, thank goodness, you know, because that's a nightmare.
It was actually Discord.
Yeah.
Like I'm just saying that now because maybe like I don't know if we could have done it with Skype, but with Discord, it actually did sound relatively good to us.
Yeah.
So I think it was like going directly. Like I was listening to it on good speakers, so we're just trying to like make the most of it. That's what the guy who mixed it like suggested.
Yeah.
He was just trying to do the best he could. But like definitely it would have been better. It would have been so much easier to make little changes, you know, in person.
Mm.
It's hard to like say, you know, when you're mixing, it's like, oh, I don't like that part. Can we do it like this? Can we do it like that? You know, that gets very tedious when you don't actually see the guy in front of you.
Yeah.
Another thing was that he was using like hardware equipment, so like he couldn't really take a break from a song, do another song, and go back because he'd have to change all the settings on everything, which was another kind of annoying thing to get through, but worked out in the end.
Yes, I mean, it's great. It's a great achievement to actually get something out and get it out there. But it must be very frustrating because here we are, what, 8 months later, and you've still not really been able to tour it, which I suspect is, you know, would be the normal next step. That's what you would want to do, wouldn't you? That would be, you release the music and then get out there and play it.
Thinking about that recently and how we haven't played the EP live, and then it actually realized that we haven't even played the 2 singles that we released before the EP, which were IDC and Same Old Stories. We played the songs live, but they were also released during lockdown, like early last summer. So yeah, we haven't really got a chance to play the majority of our released music live. And even I think we only played, like you said, we first gig was in August roughly, and then lockdown came in February. So like we were only really gigging for a few months, and I think we only played maybe 4 or 5 headline gigs. Like it was mainly support slots. We had a big one with the Clockworks in December, and that was kind of after that. I think we had a lot of momentum, but then obviously it was stopped. So yeah, we really hadn't even gotten started, to be honest, as a band when everything got shut down.
So
It's weird for us now as well that we're writing more songs at the moment, but like when we play live now, it's going to be a lot of people's first time hearing the songs from the EP live. So like you nearly have less room to be playing even newer songs, because to us the EP songs feel very old, like they're over a year old when we wrote them. But like to some people it'd be the first time they ever heard them, and they might have gone to a lot of our gigs. So that'll be weird.
yeah, and I think a lot of bands are in that situation, aren't they? You know, they've brought out this music and it came out such a long time ago that actually you're obviously working on, you know, what you want to do next, and it's like, oh, hang on, we still want to hear the other stuff because we haven't heard it yet. With the gigs coming up in October, so you've got gigs across, you know, what's Newcastle, it's the north of England, isn't it? And then London, so Liverpool, Newcastle, and so yeah, it was great to be in the Golden Lion in Todmorden, now we know how to pronounce it, and see your posters everywhere. And I was just, that was great. So That is a very cool place to play. That's going to be fantastic. Just the upstairs room of this really cool pub that is a bit of a community hub in that area, and the bands they get in there are fantastic. So so that's October. That's not that far away. So how are you looking forward to that? First time, I suspect, playing in England as well.
Exciting stuff, for sure.
Yeah, we're just figuring out the logistics of it now at the minute. So all the kind of transport and all that kind of bits and pieces. And once you have that all sorted, then I think we'll all be able to kind of, it'll become a bit more real, and then we'll have everything sorted, and definitely it'll be really looking forward to it.
Feels like an adventure. Like it feels
Yeah.
like I'm really happy to have that in my life. You know, it's like such an exciting thing to do instead of just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it just makes my life a lot less boring. You know.
Yeah,
Definitely a big privilege.
it's like a once in a lifetime kind of thing. You can't really dictate the success of a band, and even though we haven't been commercially widely successful, but like this is definitely a success in the eyes of like 90% of bands, just to be able to go on a tour and not lose loads and loads of money. Like if we can just survive for a week in England by playing music, like that's successful in my eyes. Like that's something I'll be really proud of kind of forever, even if it's not a stadium tour or whatever. It's just being able to do it in the first place.
So you mentioned writing new songs. So do you have a bunch of songs that are ready as well? Is there a lot more music that you've got ready to go?
Well, we finished our two probably. Like So Happy and Dig It Out, and then
A lot of blueprints.
Yeah, a
Or
lot
a
of
lot of
songs.
tunes that are even like 80% there. Whatever.
Yeah. So like I think we're writing pretty efficiently these days. Like today and yesterday, we're doing well. So they wouldn't be finished, but like they're kind of nearly there. But
Yeah.
two are definitely finished, and we'd be considering like maybe recording one of them as a single. Instead of like going for like a collection of music again, I think it'd be good to release a single.
Yeah.
Our writing process isn't quite as fast as it was in the Wasting Away days.
Yeah, like today we basically spent the whole day just on one song, and that's an opportunity we never would have had like when we were gigging, because you'd want to write a song, but then you also have to rehearse the set list a load of times and figure out all that kind of stuff. So although we obviously want to be playing gigs, it's nice to be able to meet up with no pressure, nothing coming up on the weekend, that we can just work on a song and really get into all the intricacies of it. So yeah, we're definitely taking a bit more time over songs, which I think you can probably hear in the music. If you compare the EP to the early stuff, like there's a little bit more going on. It's not as not as repetitive as well, maybe.
Yeah, and I think I think it's a good idea to put another single out there. You keep that interest generated. I think that's probably the most important thing. Is you just want, if you've got people that are interested in you and your music and follow you, then yeah, to be able to just bring out another tune, another song, then that's definitely the way to move forward. Absolutely, rather than think, oh, we need to put an EP again together, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we kind of took a bit of hiatus for the last like couple of months in terms of our online presence and stuff, because we didn't want to be kind of faking momentum when it wasn't there,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
in reality we were all sitting at home or working or whatever, we weren't really being a band, so we didn't want to pretend to be being a band on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. So we're kind of we're gearing towards kind of making a bit of a comeback, I suppose, once things open up. It's kind of all about getting ready for these next few months now.
Yeah. And can I just ask, this is probably a really, really terrible question, but what is the situation in Ireland at the moment with live music? Is there no kind of date of when they can happen? Is there a date of when it can be reviewed, or is there just no information right now?
There's no information at all. It's just
It's outdoor, but that's it.
No clear roadmap as such.
Like there's a lot of
200 upwards, I think.
yeah.
there seems to be some sort of like remedies. Like there's in Galway now, there's like a big tent set up, and there's music going on there and comedy. And
Still seated though.
it is seated, but we played in under a marquee in Mike the Pies.
Mhm.
But I don't know the date for indoor. Like I'm not sure.
There's no official date. It's just kind of
We had a lot of gigs postponed for this month. So
It seems like there's pretty much no effort from the government to bring things back at the moment. Like, I don't know, at least other countries are testing things out and stuff. But not here.
yeah, and they've been kind of open about it as well, because I even heard on the radio today they were saying, they don't want to reopen too many different industries at once. So they're saying we've got school coming back the next month or whatever, and they kind of listed out a few things, and entertainment is last on the list of priorities, which is upsetting because it's so important to so many people. But I think we're past the point of, we know it's going to come back at some stage, so we're just trying to focus on being ready for that. We're not. I don't think we're too stressed.
Mass is higher on the list of importance.
Yeah.
the weird thing about the Mike the Pies gig was, like, because of the restrictions, we went into Mike the Pies and up on the roof under the marquee, played our gig, and only people with tickets were allowed in, and it was really strict. And then everyone comes out and goes down into the pub, drinking their pints, sitting in their seat, where we could have just been playing on the stage.
Yeah. There's an empty stage.
It wouldn't have been any more people. It would have just been inside, and that is against the rules.
And in fact, like when we went up to the marquee, the people were much closer together than they were downstairs. So it was complete like technicality, really.
And we were playing in it was so wet, and we're there at risk getting electrocuted with our wires and everything. And it's like, this is somehow safer. But
also, like, I think something like 70% of the population is vaccinated now.
85%.
There you go. But like, there's no talk of like, having your vaccine pass to get into a non-seated gig or anything, which like such a no-brainer,
Fantastic. Well, I really just don't want to be cut off, because I think I've got 40 minutes on Zoom. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time and for talking to me. It's great to chat to you all. Loving the music. I'll be at one of the gigs in October, so that'll be fantastic to actually meet you all. And yeah, hang in there.